Morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. How is everybody doing today? We are welcome to day 28. Sorry. Of our challenge. So I know technically that means 2 days left, but it's actually 3. Those of you that have been watching, you know I messed up. So anyway, let's jump into it because today is our last habit. So then there's like 2 bits of reading. And for some reason, I'm 5 minutes late. Okay, so our habit number 7 is seed the clouds. Sow today what you want to see tomorrow. And I'm just going to give you a heads up. I have glanced and there's words. Okay, on November 13th, 1946, a single propeller airplane took off from Schenectady County Airport with a rather unique payload, 6 pounds of dry ice. The pilot was a chemist named Vincent Schaefer, who had been conducting clandestine experiments at the House of Magic, the General Electric Research Laboratory. Prior to his historic flight, Schaefer had been using a freezer chilled to sub-zero temperatures to create clouds, using his breath as condensation. Then he seeded those man-made clouds with the solid form of carbon dioxide. That dry ice catalyzed a chemical reaction that caused snow crystals to form in the freezer. Interesting. A few months later, it was time for a field test. Schaefer rented the aforementioned airplane, flew it into a cumulus cloud, and dumped the dry ice. Eyewitnesses on the ground said it was almost like the cloud exploded. The subsequent snowfall was visible 40 miles away. The General Electric monogram had a little fun with Schaefer's breakthrough. Schaefer made it snow this afternoon over Pittsfield. Next week, he walks on water. Seeding clouds is a marvel of modern science, but the idea is as old as the prophet Elijah. It hadn't rained in Israel for 3 years when Elijah climbed Mount Carmel, bowed down to the ground, and seeded the clouds with prayer 7 times. The number 7 is not insignificant. That's the number of days Israel circled Jericho. That's the number of times Naaman dipped in the Jordan River. The number 7 may not be magical, but it is biblical. It indicates completeness, and it raises these questions. What if Elijah had only prayed 6 times? What if the Israelites had stopped circling on day 6? What if Naaman had done only 6 dips? The answer is obvious. They would have forfeited the miracle right before it happened. I have no idea what habit you're trying to make or break, but I do know this: it's too soon to quit. Maybe you've had a few setbacks during this 30-day challenge. The best baseball players on the planet get a hit only every 3rd time. As we unpack this final habit, finish strong. Maybe even double down on that daily habit. I wrote The Circle Maker almost a decade ago. The book draws its title from the ancient sage named Honi the Circle Maker, who had an Elijah-like anointing. In the 1st century BC, there was a devastating drought, much like the drought in Elijah's day. When the people asked Honi to pray for rain, he took his staff and drew a circle in the sand. Then he knelt inside that circle and prayed this prayer: "By your great name, I swear that I will not move from here until you have mercy on your children." When that prayer went up, rain came down. It was a prayer that saved a generation, the generation before Jesus. According to the Talmud, Honi the Circle Maker was captivated by one line in one verse of Scripture, Psalm 126:1. When the Lord brought back the captives of Zion, we were like those who dream. That line, "we were like those who dream," provoked a question that Honi wrestled with his entire life. Is it possible for a person to dream continuously for 70 years? Longitudinal studies, did I say that right? Have shown that as we age, the cognitive center of gravity tends to shift from the right brain to the left brain. This is an oversimplification, but the left brain is the locus of logic. The right brain is the locus of imagination. That neurological tendency poses a problem. At some point, most of us stop living out of imagination and start living out of memory. We stop creating the future and we start repeating the past. We stop living by faith and start living by logic. That is when we stop living and start dying. But it doesn't have to be that way. Oh, the light in here is horrible. Well, and that's really bright. Okay, sorry. Seeding the Clouds is all about prophetic imagination. Remember day 14? It's living like we'll die tomorrow, but dreaming like we'll live forever. Seeding the Clouds is imagining unborn tomorrows, but it's not pie in the sky. It's long obedience in the same direction. It's doing things today that will make a difference 100 years from now. It's leaving a legacy that will outlive us. From 1934 to 1961, a British historian named Arnold Toynbee published a 12-volume history that traces the rise and fall of 19 civilizations. There is a question long debated by historians. Do all civilizations follow a predictable pattern, a life cycle from birth to growth to decline to death? Or is it possible for a declining civilization to experience a rebirth? Toynbee believed that a civilization could experience a rebirth, but the key is something he called the creative minority. According to Toynbee, the collapse of civilization doesn't happen because of outside attacks. The disintegration of civilization is caused by the deterioration of this creative minority. What is a creative minority? Toynbee cited the church as an example, but it's any minority that creatively responds to crisis. How? With prophetic imagination, with revolutionary resolve, with grace and with grit. One last warning. Creative minorities deteriorate when they worship their former selves. Okay, wow. In other words, they stop creating the future and start repeating the past. In doing so, they become prisoners of their own past. In the words of R.T. Kendall, the greatest opposition to what God is doing today comes from those who were on the cutting edge of what God was doing yesterday. Eventually, new wineskins become old wineskins. As soon as you stop dreaming, you start dying. As soon as you stop growing, you start atrophying. As soon as you stop learning, you start reverting to bad habits. It's time to seed the clouds. All right, here's day 28. It takes a team. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 12. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. In 1468, a 14-year-old boy named Leonardo from a town called Vinci moved 60 miles east to apprentice for an artist named Andrea del Verrocchio. Florence, Italy wasn't a large city, only about 40,000 people, but it had a high concentration of creatives. There were more wood carvers than butchers, 83 to be exact. Florence was a city of artists, and the incubators were creative collaborations called workshops. Florence boasted 54 of them. One of them was Verrocchio's workshop. Fun fact, many of the pieces produced by these workshops during the Renaissance bear no signature because they weren't the work of one artist. Art was a team sport. So is habit formation. We need people in our lives who believe in us more than we believe in ourselves. Remember Bob Beeman? He borrowed Ralph Boston's faith for 6 seconds and flew 29 feet, 2.5 inches because of it. Diana Nyad borrowed her father's faith and swam across the straits of Florida. Marcus Bullock borrowed his mom's faith, served his sentence, and started Flick Shop. We need people who will push us past our limits. We also need people who will push our buttons when necessary. Iron sharpens iron. The friction of competition is one example. The sharpening of friendship is another. The goal of this book is to help you tap your potential. Maybe I should have mentioned this at the outset. You can't do it all by yourself. Habit formation is a team sport. I'm not suggesting you form friendships like a draft board, but it should involve some intentionality. Who do you want to become? Spend time with that kind of person. David had his mighty men. Elisha had the company of prophets. Even Jesus had his 12 disciples. If we're taking our cues from Christ, we'll surround ourselves with a prayerfully selected team. The bottom line, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. After his 4-year apprenticeship, Leonardo da Vinci continued working in Verrocchio's workshop. He would spend a decade working side by side with the master artist. Verrocchio and Leonardo collaborated on a masterpiece called The Baptism of Christ. It's worth Googling. There are 2 angels in that painting. The angel on the right is Verrocchio's angel. The angel on the left is Leonardo's. I'm neither an artist nor an art historian, but the consensus is that Leonardo's angel is more angelic. In fact, Verrocchio was so awed by Leonardo's angel that he resolved never again to touch a brush. The student had become the master. That raises the question, who was the greater genius, Verrocchio or Leonardo? If it's a measure of pure artistic talent, the answer is Leonardo, hands down. But there is a kind of genius that can spot genius. It's the genius of Jesus, isn't it? He saw potential in his disciples that no one else did. Without the genius that is able to spot genius, lots of genius goes undiscovered. Potential goes untapped. Talent gets wasted, and opportunities are left on the table. Artists need artists. Leaders need leaders. Coaches need coaches. Even long jumpers need long jumpers. I'll stop there, but there are no exceptions. Remember Ed Catmull? If he hadn't started a workshop called Pixar, the collective talent of all those animators and storytellers would have gone untapped. As a leader, you have to see the ecosystem that every person represents. When I meet with a leader, I'm not just investing in them. I'm investing in their organization. When I spend time with a coach, I'm investing in their team. When I spend time with a father, I'm investing in his children. I even do the math sometimes. I've had meetings with people who lead companies, lead countries. In a sense, I'm meeting with every person they represent. That mindset adds value to the time invested, and it has a domino chain reaction. In my book, Success is Succession. We stand on the shoulders of the generation before us, and we return the favor by passing the baton. In the Broadway blockbuster, Hamilton, there are these lines that I love. Legacy. What is legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden you never get to see. I never met Lois Labar, the professor who made a $100 investment in Dick and Ruth Foth, but she is a shareholder in everything God does in and through National Community Church. How? Dick Foth reinvested the dividends of her generosity in my life. I've had the privilege of pastoring National Community Church for a quarter century, but I'm still an interim pastor. All of us are transition leaders. All of us will pass the baton sooner or later. Are you setting up the next generation? Who is your Elisha? Who are you giving your mantle to? We see the clouds by making disciples. It's the 4th dimension of discipleship. Disciple others the way you were discipled. When Diana Nyad swam ashore in Key West, she said, "We should never, ever give up. You are never too old to chase your dream." Then she said something I omitted until now. It looks like a solitary sport, but it takes a team. Nyad had a team of 30 experts that included doctors, oceanographers, meteorologists, and shark scientists, not to mention family and friends. Once again, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. Alex Haley, author of the Pulitzer Prize winning book Roots, famously kept a picture of a turtle on a fence post in his office. "Anytime you see a turtle on a fence post," said Haley, "you know he had some help." I love that. Anytime Alex Haley was tempted to take credit for his accomplishments, he would swivel his chair and look at that turtle. Simply put, your blessings are the byproduct of someone else's sacrifices. If you don't believe that, then you haven't connected the dots. At the end of his epistle to the Romans, Paul shared a who's who list that includes 29 names: Phoebe, Urbanus, Andronicus, Olympus, Erastus, Cordus. To us, it's as boring as the begats. But these people meant the world to Paul. They were his best friends, his closest confidants. They were the ones who risked their lives for him. This was Paul's dream team. Who's on your Romans 16 list? Ugh, isn't this great? I love this. When was the last time you thanked them? Author and entrepreneur Jim Rohn is famous for saying that we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Can I up the ante to 12? Let's be honest. The disciples were not first-round draft picks by anyone's standards. They were ordinary in every way, except one. They spent 3 years with Jesus. They had box seats to every parable, every miracle. They drank the water that was turned into wine. They ate the 5 loaves and 2 fish that fed 1,000 or thousands. For 3 years, they went hiking, camping, and fishing together. Do you remember the way the Sanhedrin classified the disciples? They called them unschooled. True, they may not have had academic credentials, but the Sanhedrin took note that they had been with Jesus. That was their JND, just noticeable difference. Our pastor of prayer, Heidi Scanlon, doesn't have accountability partners. She has expectability partners. I like that language. All too often, accountability partners focus on sin management. Sure, we need people to hold us to certain standards, but we also need people who expect the best and bring out the best in us. It's someone who holds us to a higher standard. An expectability partner asks the question, what are you expecting from God? And those sanctified expectations need to be beyond our ability, beyond your ability, and beyond your resources. If you surround yourself with bad examples, it's hard not to pick up bad habits. According to the science of social networks, if a friend of yours becomes obese, you are 45% more likely to gain weight over the next 2 to 4 years. Of course, the opposite is true too. Your friends can help you become more fit. Either way, it's a function of our mirror neurons. Bad company corrupts good behavior, but good company sanctifies it. One way you seed the clouds is by getting in the right room with the right people. The key to your success is not just what you know, but who you know. Genius often happens in clusters. In sports, it's called a coaching tree. There is a Bill Walsh tree, a Bill Belichick tree, and an Andy Reid tree. In a sense, each of those coaches created a domino chain reaction. and it's true of every endeavor from business to science. Remember Dwight D. Eisenhower? His graduating class at West Point had been called the class the stars fell on. Of the 164 graduates in his class, 59 of them attained the rank of general. How does 36% of a class climb the ladder to that rank? The obvious answer is the timing of World War II, no doubt. But that class rose to the occasion. A church is a community of faith that spurs one another on toward love and good deeds. For starters, testimony is prophecy. We borrow faith from one another, just like Bob Beeman did from Ralph Boston. We are challenged by the likes of Susan B. Anthony, Rosa Parks, and Katherine Johnson. We are convicted by overcomers like Chris Nickick and Chris Norton. A community of faith results in herd immunity against fear. It also unleashes our creativity. In a sense, a healthy church is Verrocchio's workshop. So how do I make it a habit? Choose friends wisely. In the world of running, the 4-minute mile was considered an unbreakable barrier by many. Then on May 6, 1954, Roger Bannister ran the mile in 3 minutes, 59 and 4/10 seconds. As of this writing, the 4-minute mile has been broken 1,497 times, and that world record has been lowered by more than 17 seconds. How did Bannister break that barrier? He didn't do it by himself, that's for sure. Bannister had pace setters. Few people remember their names, Chris Chataway and Chris Basher, but Bannister wouldn't have broken that record without them. They pushed him past his limits by setting the pace. Remember our thesis? Almost anyone can accomplish almost anything if they work at it long enough, hard enough, and smart enough. I stand by it, and Roger Bannister is the evidence of it. But you need to surround yourself with the right pace setters. When it comes to habit formation, Benjamin Franklin is a founding father. He was fanatical about cultivating 13 virtues to the point of keeping a daily scorecard, as we noted on day 5. But Franklin knew that he couldn't reach his potential by himself. What did he do? In 1727, Benjamin Franklin formed the Leather Apron Club for the purpose of mutual improvement. I love that. It was an eclectic group that included philosophers, cabinet makers, merchants, mathematicians, printers, and surveyors. They gathered on Friday nights to discuss subjects that ranged from physics to philosophy to politics. I could cite dozens of groups like this one. They range from Count Nicholas Ludwig von Zinzendorf and his Order of the Mustard Seed to Josiah Royce and the Fellowship of Reconciliation. Those creative minorities formed communities that changed the course of history. The whole was greater than the sum of the parts. When geese fly in V formation, overall efficiency is improved by 71%. Enough said. Who are you flying with? Who are your pace setters? Who is pushing you past the 40% rule that we discussed on day 3? There is no way you can tap your full potential without the right people around you. But I'll take it one step further. At the outset of any endeavor, your daily habits are the key to your success. Over time, the key to your success is surrounding yourself with the right people. They will help you fly further, faster. Many years ago, I added a relational element to my life goal list. Why? It's more fun crossing the finish line together, but that's not all. Those who sweat together, stay together, stick together. Well, stick, stay, same thing. Going after a goal is relational glue that bonds us to each other's future. I like that. Many years ago, I added a relational element to my life goals. I wish I knew what that was exactly. All right. It takes a team. Wow, there was a few things in there I need to go back to highlight. I should have stopped myself like I did when we read that first little part, but anyway, I'll go back. All right, thank you guys. We are really on the final stretch now. We will be done Wednesday morning. Will be our last day, I believe, if I am counting right. So here we are at the end, almost of our 30-day challenge. This has been amazing for me. I have been very, very challenged to show up. I wonder, again, like I asked yesterday, number one, who has showed up with us every single day? Whether replay or live, that part doesn't matter, but who has showed up every day to hear the reading for the day? And then on our commitment device, which habit have we followed through for 30 days straight? Maybe there's more than one. I don't know. For 30 days, that would be interesting. And see, that's why we've got the commitment device, right? Because you don't have to wonder. You can actually go back and see that pattern. And 30 days is really cool to watch, but I'm telling you, trust me, 60 days, even cooler, 90 days, it just gets more interesting the more days you do, to see the patterns in your life and to be challenged a lot of times. All right. Thank you guys so much for catching today's day 28. Yes, today was day 28. All right. Have a great Sunday. If you're able, go to church. And if you're not able, catch a good faith building message somewhere. Hear the word. And we will see you guys tomorrow morning for day 29.